But before that, I need to remind you that there's somebody who's going to hold your hand no matter what. Whether it is that you're starting a new business or you're thinking about your child's education, or you're actually thinking about what am I going to do to secure my future. So imagine having a trusted ally by your side always. Well, that's the I&M Bank promise. We empower you with the tools and support to turn your aspirations into reality. So get from one place to the next. Whether it's a new business venture, like I said, or it's ensuring that your children can go to school or securing your future, I&M Bank is here for you. From flexible financial solutions to personalized guidance, we're on your side, championing your progress and celebrating your successes. So don't just bank, build your future with a partner who believes in you. Experience the power of on your side banking and find out more at any I&M bank branch close to you. And we will definitely, you have all the information that you need. Sawa. It is 15 years for Radio Maisha, and our big sister is 15 today. Show us the way, essentially. And from morning to night, throughout, here we are having great entertainment. It's Radio Zaidi Ya Radio. Happy birthday, Radio Maisha. Happy birthday, Radio Maisha. Happy birthday, Radio Maisha. Happy birthday, Maisha. Hey, Kabisa. You guys have talent somewhere.
You sounded like our boy.
No, but I'm telling you, good things and great entertainment. Like I say, from Sugar in the morning to Anne in midday, and Clemua and Jitabi through into the evening, and just being able to really even listen to the rumba sounds with Titi Nagwala, and joining into the sports over the weekend and getting into great entertainment through it all. For the last 15 years, Radio Maisha has been there. Radio Zaidi Ya Radio, and we wish Radio Maisha a happy birthday, and to another 15 more, and 15 more after that, to continue showing what great entertainment is all about. And we take a moment to do that, and many, many more moments to celebrate and to say that continue being the leading light for us all to then be able to follow. Yep. And so we get into a conversation this morning. Everybody's been throwing this word around. Youth, Gen Z, this. We now have almost used it like, you know how you get a packet of noodles, right? And then inside the packet of noodles is the little condiment. So we started to use it as a thing where we talk about the prescription for governance. And we say, with that, you must include the youth agenda, without realizing that it is part and parcel of the meal itself. It is not a side dish. It's not your salad. Well, salad should be part of your meal. Hey, we're eating vegetables. But it is everything. It is the thing that we discuss. It is the thing that we are part of. And that forms the basis for the conversation that we have this morning to round out the week. Joining us in the hot seats this morning, Nuruddin Kagai is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and Jerry Kahiga is the national youth leader, and they're both here in the hot seats this morning. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Ladies first.
Ladies, how are you?
I'm very fine.
Very fine. Good to have you here. And
Thank
how are
you.
you?
I'm doing well.
Very good. Karibuni sana. This is the Situation Room, and you're in the hot seats. We're looking at the youth perspective this morning.
Yeah.
And the way I thought about it last night, I said, you know what? To go from being just the condiment in the packet that you sprinkle after the fact. No, it can't be. That there's more to it, that it is part of, it is the discourse, it is where we are. And we cannot say that we'll have it as just a by the way. No, but we would like to hear where this all is now in the conversation that we have. And it's not moving forward, it is now. So we're going to get into that, but we're going to welcome you to the Situation Room. Mark has been to Ghana for the purposes of this conversation, and he's come back with a proverb from the people who say Akwaba. He's going to share that proverb with us, and then we would like you to tell us what your interpretation of it is. Yes?
And please know that your opinion is very correct. Okay? It's not something you can get wrong. Knowledge is like a baobab tree. No one can encompass it with their hands. Knowledge is like a baobab tree. No one can encompass it with their hands.
Nuruddin is going to say ladies first again.
Of course.
Okay. Let's go.
So I'm supposed to interpret the
Tell us what
statement
your
in a
interpretation
youth
is.
perspective.
Yes, please.
Okay, that's what you call a quick fire, I think. I think the perspective that I get from it is that we have the variety of ideas, what the young people can do, what they should be doing, but again, maybe we are confined into thinking that the youth perspective should be this way, when we should be looking at it from all aspects. Then in the Kenyan perspective, it is channeled that youths need to follow this route. When you go on the other one, you look like you're kind of crooked. So I think we should be looking at it like from a broad perspective. But the system of Kenya has made it impossible for the young people to even feel like they have the whole kitchen for themselves, and they are confined to what you say, to just be the spices. We have been confined into just thinking we just need to wait for our seniors to prepare the meal, then maybe we can come in some tomato sauce.
Yeah, exactly. Some
that's what I
chili
would
sprinkle
think.
there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Nuruddin?
Well, I would say we need to see our scope as broad, or rather expand our territories and think beyond the norm. Because at the end of the day, you're always told, follow the line or the channel, and that channel is always going to be against you. So think wide, be broad in your decisions, and open up your scope or rather territory. Yeah.
Indeed. Open it up. Definitely will serve. And, the discourse, whichever way we want to look at it, and that's great for your interpretations for both of you. And I think it also forms for what we will talk about now. The discourse, as we see it in the country, is highly political. Highly. Yeah. There is a lot that needs to be done. There is a lot that needs to be implemented, and to stay away from the political is one thing that many have cried that we do, but it seems as though it is not possible to do. Beyond that, especially after, and we keep using it as a point of reference, and I think that we should, especially after the protests that took place in 2024, and then we saw a shift. Many would argue that it was a seismic one then, in terms of how the dealings with this country then were going to operate from then moving forward. It changed things monumentally. And then we heard louder than ever that there needed to be youth inclusion in all of these things that we are doing.
Yeah.
Do you think there needs to be youth inclusion in all of these things that we are doing? Or do we think that everybody is supposed to be included in the conversations that we are having and the political direction in which we are going? Which one?
Well, personally, I believe that everyone needs to be involved. That is why the law talks about public participation. You all need to participate, bring in your input, be it old or young, at the end of the day. What we're seeing, the clamor for the youth, it's more or less just looking for the votes. You see, that's why you see everybody's talking about, we respect the Gen Z, we are going to work with them. That is purely courtesy of the fact that people are looking for votes. And it reminds me of how our politics has been. Every single time a political party is formed, they open up a youth wing. Now that youth wing is where you guys are thrown. You are needed for rallies,
Yes.
to chant, to wear the party T-shirts. But when decisions are being made, now these days apparently they bring just one person to the neck. Now that person is usually overpowered at the end of the day. So you see how they run their affairs. The youth are there to be seen, to just popularize the party. But at the end of the day, they get shortchanged. Last elections, they tried something where some parties were offering, if you are below 35 years, free, you don't pay the nomination fee. We're getting some, but I still believe that they still see the youth as something to just use and throw. And then when now they have to appoint people, now they go for their cronies. And that is how it works at the end of the day. And those that get their appointments, for example, those that they call youth, are those who they do their bidding for. Because so they are kind of panel beaten into a certain way, and they conform. They wouldn't take someone like Nuruddin who'd ask a question like, why are we doing this? So they'll see you as problematic. That is why you've seen now apparently what happened last year in June. To some in the establishment, they feel kind of triggered. They're like, why are these people? What had made these people actually realize that they have some voice or some power? And so at the end of the day, I do believe that the youth are very important in the country, because every single law you make, you remember Malema usually says, they have the advantage of time. most of these politicians are old, they'll pass away. So if you're making, for example, if you're making laws that are going to hurt the people in future, of course these people are going to be there. So I do believe that it's quite beautiful that people have actually decided to take part and parcel in decision making in this country. And I believe that's the way going forward. Yeah.
Jerry?
I want to start by saying that I've, maybe because of I'm a Gen Z, and I've failed to understand for a long time why youth have seemed like a minority group, when in reality, in terms of number data, we are the largest group. And the whole situation now, when you look at it from a political aspect, because I beg to differ when people say we should not be apolitical every other time, because everything that happens in this country, from business to agriculture to just the normal social living, is a direct or indirect line of politics. So we cannot do away with politics. Every day when we wake up, when I go to the stage and find that fare has been hiked, is because maybe a policy was introduced and fuel prices went up, and the matatu crew felt we need to add the fare. So if a passenger feels like I don't want to do politics, then in the morning you find that politics has affected your fare, and you can't engage in the conversation because now apparently it involves politics, but now you have been affected. So I think maybe the aspect of whether the young people should be included or everybody should be included, if I look at the Constitution has had a place where even in terms of elective politics, it gives what age should a president, what should be the age bracket for a president vying, what are the place of the youth in terms of nominations. But for the longest time, people have just ignored the youth aspect. I don't even want to go to the elective point. Let us just do it from a business aspect. How many times in Kenya do the government uphold the percentage of tenders that should be given to the young people? Let's not even do politics. Let's even assume politics is a bad thing like everybody says. Let's do it from a business perspective. How many times do companies hire and say, now, these tenders, we have 10 tenders, and how many companies have applied? Not even the government, the private businesses. How many times do they give a chance to young people to do tenders? On the basis of, hawa ni vijana wadogo wanatusumbua. You know, the young people don't know how to give kickbacks. The young people don't understand the unwritten laws of tendering, you know. And I understand that we for a long time have accused the political class, but it begins with us. How many times do we go in the village and do family gatherings, and the young cousins cannot talk? Niwangoje masaa ya sherehe waseme ni wimbo gani itachezwa. But when we were deciding on where the next location for this gathering should be, the young people should have been quiet and their mothers can decide what can be done next. What projects do we do as a family? The young people, the youth, the newly married should be quiet and wait for the seniors to speak. So when we talk about the youth inclusion, it's not something that should start from the political perspective. It needs to begin home. It needs to begin from the family setup. It needs to begin from the church setup. It needs to begin from just there in the mashinani when there is a case and people are trying to decide which wife was wrong, which husband was right.
Yes.
And the guys are told, wewe nyamaza, unajua nini kuhusu ndoa? You've only been married for 1.5 years, you know? But you want the same youth who has read the finance bill 2 weeks ago to go on the street and demonstrate as a young person because the future is theirs. But when they were trying to give an opinion back at home, you told them of their age. The experience is downplayed. So I need us to look at it from a perspective of it's a failure from the whole community. We've for a long time ignored the youth. And maybe the youth have also played a part in being ignored, because when time we've been given to platforms, some of us have decided to, show people why the youth should not be on the table. Because we've seen young legislators be sycophants. We've seen young people get into powerful positions, and all they can do is give us a flamboyant life on Instagram and everywhere else. And when the serious issues are being discussed, they're not even in the country. They're not even in parliament. They're out somewhere there posting for us photos all over. We've seen a situation where the young people have been given an opportunity, and all they can show after 5 years is vehicles and expensive wigs. When you ask them, what did you take to parliament? They can't show you. But they want in the next election, nominations, they be considered again for them again to go post for us photos. So I think it's a mistake that everybody needs to own. The community with the young people. And for a minute, we need to keep updating our constitution. It's time that everybody was given a fair ground. Because when you show that certain group is a minority, I think they tend to get it in their heads and they think they are entitled to be at the table, even when they don't qualify to be on the table.
Just a quick one, and I love how you're saying it, because I've always had a problem with this idea that youth must be included. Because I don't believe any cadre of society should have an automatic access to something simply because they are a certain age or gender or whatever. It's not something I ascribe to, because then what we are doing is we are position filling versus actually considering what is the actual competence of this person to do what is needed. Now, there's a big problem, and I don't think many Kenyans have realized it. The big problem is this: Kenya is not a society that thinks of itself socially tomorrow, right? We've not even started preparing for Gen Z, and Gen Z is already above 18, right? Because all the managers I talk to when I go to do a training, they're always complaining about Gen Z. Why? Because that generation and how it was brought up is different from millennials and how we were brought up. I'll give you a basic example, right? Us guys, millennials, most of us, when we were just 19, 20, 21, 23, Kibaki was coming in. So we got into a society with hope and whatever, and we've lived 20 years plus without needing to have to fix politics necessarily, right? Then a generation comes behind us that is facing different dynamics. So I totally get you when you talk about how even youth have been given opportunities and they've not used it. So I want to flip the question a little bit. How does the political class, which you've talked about, which I also have a problem with, because youth wingers are not just people to throw stones and make things popular and say what should be danced to, but also society itself. How do we prepare a platform, not for the youth, because that's, I hate that term, because it does not, in Kenya we don't even realize that this is someone who's above 18. You get, they are allowed to make legal choices. So how does political parties and society prepare for what these incoming adults need from the older society and older politicians, for there to be flow of excellence, good manners, good behavior, and a better society? Because just choosing a youth does not mean Kenya will stop being corrupt.
True. So personally, I do believe that the only way we can move forward from that is we change our way of doing politics. Because if you look at it by and large, it's still ethnic. That is why even you'll find a youth who, when it comes down to the issues of politics, will go to where they came from. Sadly, and that's the truth. You see, and I believe also we have an issue with our political parties. Political parties are funded by taxpayers' money. But in Kenya, they're owned by individuals. Respect the party leader, toe the party line. If you don't like, you are removed from a political party. You see, so that's a sad reality. There is no space for independent mind or independent thinking in our political parties or in our politics. And if you're waiting for the same people who actually are party leaders in these political parties to change that, they'll never do that, because that is what they know. Most of them come from the independence party. What they understand is divide and rule. There is no way you'll tell them, oh, by the way, we need to have ideological thinking, you need to plan ahead. Or you just asked about how do we plan in future for the young people. Of course, they've planned a debt for them. They need to pay for the rest of their lives. Oh, we are planning debts by the way. We take in mind, so you guys are going to come and pay at the end of the day. So I do believe we need a shift in the way we do our things. But you cannot expect that from this political class. They can never learn anything new. What they understand is the youth are a means to an end. Use them, get there, kick the bucket. And when the saddest thing is that when we speak about those who rise above, you see, these nominations, the political parties are just charades, because at the end of the day, they have a candidate for that seat. Oh, so you want to be MP plus X, and so do you. And I see as the party leader, for example, Wotanisumbua, but who will do anything I want. So I'll skew it towards you winning and you not winning. So when this person gets there, what she talks about is a flashy person, just busy on vehicles, voting yes for things they don't even understand. I watch parliament sometimes and I'm sad. Someone just says, I'm voting yes. I ask them, why are you voting yes?
They don't know.
They don't even read, man. And that's a sad reality. So, like you rightfully say, it's not just about being youth. What do you have between your ears at the end of the day? What do you stand for as a person? Because most of our political parties don't stand for anything. That is why one day they tell you ODM is a pro-people party. Tomorrow it is in the same government with the same government that people are crying about. You see, that is what we need to understand. You as a person, you want a better country moving forward. So you need to actually love yourself, love the country more than love yourself.
You see, Nurdin, you've mentioned something in terms of we need to change how we play politics in the country, right? The youth has seen as a card that is always there, means to an end. But one would equally say that power is never given.
Of course.
Power is taken. You mentioned, Jerry, about the youth are seen as the minority, yet in reality, they are the majority in the country. So then how can the youth take advantage of these numbers to take this power from those that they say have not planned anything for them but to pay debt?
First of all, let me respond in terms of, I'm a politician. I do politics. I'm aspiring to be the women rep for Nyandarua County Camp 2027. And I'm a member of DCP party. And as young people, when we went to the streets last year, we used to say we are leaderless, partyless, And now, after the whole reality hit us, that the only reason why Baba and his group took government is because they went to the table and negotiated and said, now, if you bring us on board, we are going to be able to bring down this generation that does not have leaders. They don't even have a party. So that is how ODM got themselves some CS positions and everything. So as a young person, me and several of my colleagues, we asked ourselves now, in the next finance bill, do we still want a repeat of what we saw? Because truth be told, the only reason why we were infiltrated in the demonstration is because we didn't have a clearly cut out structure on how to start the demonstrations, where we get it to the middle and where we finish it. And then after the demonstration, then what next? Where do we take this whole team of demonstrators? How do we help them get into a structural system where now they can shape politics from the inside? So when I decided to join DCP, we used to ask ourselves with the young people, now, joining a party is one thing, but then what happens? You need to be at the decision-making table. And I remember every time that Rigathi Gachagua used to do meetings back in Wamonyoro in the village, and he would sit down with young people and we would ask him, Your Excellency, you talk so much about the Gen Z. We saw you when the last minutes of your being a deputy president, you doing a presser in Mombasa, your boss doing it in Nairobi. And we would ask him now, how sure are we that if we decide to stop being leaderless, we're going to come to this party? What is it for us, for the young people? And I remember at one point we decided the youth wing is something that has been there long. Every other party has a youth wing. But now for us to be at the decision table, you can't just say that, we have a youth wing and this is your chair, youth league. And one of the key things that the youth stood up for in all those meetings that the DCP party leader sat down was, we need to have numbers in the neck. We need to have numbers, and not just one person, not two, not three. We need to have a number that we know these people, at least five for startup would really work. And on the day that we were unveiling our party, I'm glad that my party leader named 5 of the young people part of the national executive. And at least as a young person, I can say I've now moved from saying that in my party I'm only represented by one person in the neck to 5 people. And these 5 people, we have told them now, you as the 5 people have to ensure that in that room of the other members, maybe 30 other people, you need to make sure that your voice as the young people is heard. Because we have to be very honest to ourselves. We must start somewhere. If at the decision table you don't bring out your voice boldly, if you agree to go to the table and just be an additional voice to whatever everybody else says, that is what the youth will become. Because I am a believer that if at the decision-making table, the young people can stand up and say, no, the young people have said no to finance bill. Whether the party is a ruling party or not, the young people have said this. Then it's up to the party to decide now, do we really want to tour with the young people, or we want to go on our way and then they'll be on the mandamano on their way? And also as young people, it comes to the question of going to take you a seat at the table. And if they can't give you a seat at the table, break the table, go form yours. You know, at sometimes we as young people, I tell young people that during Mandamano, things were not easy. You know, we used to go there and you would know, you go with somebody in the morning, Giori, that person is in the cold room. They have been shot dead. And I tell the young people, every politician during the Gen Z Mandamano saw an end to their career. Those who are in opposition and those who are in government, they saw an end of their career. Reason being the Gen Z. And that is why going to 2027, the young people need to understand that it's either they do it this time or they can join the circle of the young people who have been there back then, saying, tulikuwa hapo vijana. Sisi tulisimamisha finance bill, then what next?
Okay.
If we don't make it in 2027 to change at the ballot box and not only give people a chance at the ballot because they are Gen Z, because they can stand up and say something, articulate things that can change the nation.
Let's take a break at this point, because then we keep talking about the youth voice, but what's the voice saying?
Yeah.
You know, lend a voice. What's that voice? What is it saying? And let's open that up a little bit when we come back from this. Nuruddin Kagai and Jerry Kahiga are here with us this morning, and we're talking about the youth perspective, which has been talked to within an inch of its life. But then we're saying, okay, what is it? You know, what is that perspective, and who needs to realize it as we take things moving forward? This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We continue with this when we come back from this short break at 26 minutes to 10.
This is the Situation Room.
College invites you for this May and September 2025 enrollment. We offer higher diploma, certificate and artisan in School of Agriculture and Animal Health, Engineering and Technology, Business and Commerce, Accountancy, Banking and Finance, Travel, Tourism and Hospitality Management, Mass Communication and Journalism, Computing Information and Studies, Social Studies Development, Medical Health and Sciences. Call us on 0725 818 644 or email eldorettechnical@gmail.com or visit our website www.eldorettti.ac.ke to register for May 2025 and September 2025 enrollment.
Welcome to Paint Splash Zone, where you step into the zone and you splash paint and express yourself on the walls, on the canvases.
Right from mixing colors
Games
to games
to karaoke.
We actually got an inspiration from just online. So we thought, what if we bring this in Kenya and get to inspire more people?
Through the pieces of art, we get to know you better. We get to see the things that are hidden deep inside you.
Join us each week for music and the spoken word, featuring the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, the longest-running continuous weekly network broadcasting the world, celebrating over 93 years on air. Each episode features modern and traditional arrangements of spiritual, patriotic, classical and contemporary music and a timely, inspiring message. Truly an uplifting, rejuvenating experience that will have you returning to each week. Music and the spoken word with the Tabernacle Choir.
Tumeleta melody ya kusifu Mungu Baba, spiritually na body, injili inabamba, tumeleta melody, tumeleta melody.
Okay. First of all, I think the problem starts with the people that these leaders thought would help them in office. Because sadly, in Kenya, the people who help an MP when he's employed, the person who was mobilizing for him, the Boda Boda team, the person who was mobilizing for him, the Gen Z, the person who was mobilizing for him, Wamama Wachama. So these are the people who are taken into office. Some, they are even trying to fake papers. We've seen people who have gone into office through fake papers. So now when it comes to real PR, this person does not want to take a journalist somewhere who is retired or who is no longer working in a station for them to do their public relations. Somebody who really understands what public relation entails. Somebody who can tell you this strategy can work and will give you these results. They only want somebody somewhere there who is a hype man, somewhere around the youth people who can tell him, hey, join TikTok. And now it narrows down to qualifications again. Don't just give people opportunities because opportunities are there to be given. Give them because they are qualified and because they can show results. If you ask these members of parliament who have millions of followers on TikTok, you find on Facebook, at least every member of parliament has over 100,000. If you ask them what they do with it, they don't know. They just tell you for the likes, for the views, they are okay with it. And they look at it like the video is not doing well and the users are not being engaged if it does not hit 1,000 views. Now that is what they think results are not being shown. But in reality, they need to ask themselves, does engaging the young people means dancing to their tunes? Can we stop we need to stop these normal conversation where we think that the young people, for us to associate with them, it's doing what they like. Sometimes with the young people, just want to see you doing policies that work for us. But because you took in your office people who were just in your campaign team and not necessarily people who are qualified to make you understand how to engage with the young people through the constitution, how do you engage with the young people through policies, how do you engage with the young people through maybe helping them understand better why you want to pass this bill. So I think it starts with right from the day a member of parliament is declared the winner, the people that they hang around with. These are the people that shape their next 5 years. Because if you ask, I don't want to mention names, but if you ask some of these popular TikTokers who are politicians, what dancing on TikTok for the last 2 years has helped them with the young people, they'll give you no story. But I am very sure if they took in qualified people, and sometimes they even have qualified people, but you've brought in an advisor, but you want to advise this advisor on how they can advise you, you know? And that is the case we even have for our president. He has so many advisors. In fact, right now, anybody who wants to be fired, you're not told you have been fired. You are told you've been made an advisor. You know, advisor is the new word for firing. So in case you hear your head of department tells you now you've been taken to another department to advise, just know you've been fired. Because in Kenya now we have a president who also wants to advise his advisors how to advise him. And that is the saddest thing, that we as Kenyans need to understand that even if we want to talk about the youth perspective, even if this youth is taken to the president and sits with him every day, but the president has to tell him, uniambie hivi na hivi na nitafanya hivi na hivi, then for you, you're just there to, you know, just do what the person told you to do. And I think that is the main problem that we have.
You know, but he said, hamuna PhD, mna advice kama nani.
That's a PhD about an issue.
Wow. I have had the privilege of engaging with some of the commissars from EFF. And I've talked to them about how they came about from, you know, most of them were in ANC. And so if you look at, for example, their politics there, their parties, how their youth wing is extremely powerful. A president there in a youth wing in a political party in South Africa is extremely powerful. So if you look at, for example, what they discuss in their parliament, vis-a-vis what we discuss here, because I also watch them. You look at a member of parliament from, let's say, South Africa, in as much as my brothers there are kind of unconventional with how they operate, that is EFF, you have them discussing something as serious as land expropriation without compensation. In Kenya, we have reports like the TGRC, the Ndungland report, the Kriegler report, that none of these MPs that I am, quote unquote, can pick and bring to the House for implementation. Because, as you rightfully say, what they think is hype or what is PR to them is dancing. Do you know your work can sell itself? By virtue of what you're doing, the impact can be felt. You don't need to dance. And most of the time, the dance is just work. It's terrible. It's like most of them have rickets at the end of the day.
But where did they get this idea?
Because
that this is what people want to see.
Someone lied to them that it's hype, it's cool if you dress in a certain way, if you dress in expensive clothes, if you walk in a certain way, showing us Christian Louis Vuittons. If you walk in if you dance to certain tunes, or you're dancing to Burna Boy. So because Burna Boy has fans in Kenya, that will translate to votes. They need to wake up, man, and smell the coffee, because it's never going to work that way. Because at the end of the day, it's what you do for your people that elected you, because you have voted on the aspect of what have you done for me. Because at the end of the day, voting is a selfish exercise. I vote for you as an MP because I expect you to represent me, to legislate on my behalf. If legislation is being brought into the House, and we were once told that the government never fails in its legislation. So if today the government wakes up, because we have an all-knowing government, and they decide that Kenyans have 2 arms, you need 1 arm. So they decide to pass that as law. You'll vote yes because you're supposed to vote yes because of party lines and party position. They need to wake up and realize that things have to change. But seeing that I am I'm an optimistic person, I believe that things will change. And since I also am a student of history, today is 15 days of celebration, right? Radio Maisha.
Yes, 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
Allow me to actually, to the political class, there's a song called Lokuta Monene. That song speaks about MPR and Mobutu, where they were saying MPR is here forever. They were saying Mobutu is going nowhere. Yesterday we were being told Wakondani, Mbu wako nje. So this is Mbu. So at the end of the day, they should all listen to Lokuta Monene, because the message is in the song at the end of the day.
Just a question that has been riding my mind as I hear you guys speak. And you're correct about how youth should behave, what youth should expect, and how politicians should behave. And I, for example, they should not be sucking their thumbs in parliament or eating lollipops or dancing badly outside their offices because we want them inside their office. I do not know what you're doing outside your office. I did not hire you to dance. Please stop dancing. It's bad, it's terrible, and that goes to all of you. But my question to the youth is this. You know the trending question, 100 men versus 1 gorilla. You know that question?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time when I hear youth speak, there are 100 men.
100 men. Then there's 1 gorilla.
And there's 1 gorilla. So we did a scientific study of this mathematics, right? And realized the gorilla can only win if it has a strategy. Men will always win because they have a strategy. My question is this. Is Gen Z just a loud mob, or does Gen Z actually have a strategy? It is one thing to wish for the kind of leaders we want, to wish the kind of mentorship we want, the kind of country we want. But is there a strategy for Gen Z to actually be able to develop the discourse around our economy, discourse around our society, discourse around our politics? Because without a strategy, you're a mob, and mobs are just loud.
It's the same thing as Sankara used to say, that a soldier without education, with a gun, is a terrorist at the end of the day. So
Fact.
I do believe the most important thing is, actually we need to give credit where credit is due. Because last year people were actually discussing the finance bill, civic education. We've come from far. That never used to happen. So people actually waking up to the realization that, you know what, since we have members of parliament who have forgotten their roles, the people shall, you know? At the end of the day, we can represent ourselves in such a way that we can educate ourselves around what is happening. I believe the most important thing is to answer his question. If you want a different country moving forward, register as voters and wake up and vote. Because to some, voting isn't cool. It's an exercise in futility. It's a long queue. I don't have time for this. I have things to do. You know, realize that the next 5 years are determined by an election. So if you fail to vote, a good or bad leader will go in. And that person will determine whether they'll tax you to oblivion at the end of the day. Whether you're someone, hey, man, we're a country where we pray for social media. Can you even imagine? And that's my member of parliament. I'm so disturbed when I see some things, you know. You're praying for social media. I'm disturbed, you know. So at the end of the day, because you fail to understand things are changing, things are moving, and you fail to understand that your ideas are archaic and you need to go with the time, which is not TikTok in this case, which is understand people are asking for their deliverables.
You see, Jerry, bad leaders are elected by citizens who don't vote. And the citizens who don't vote, even if you go back to 2022, are young people who did not come out, did not even bother to register as voters. We saw the Finance Bill 2024 and how the young people came out and they communicated. Like he says, there was public participation. These finance bill was being broken down even to mother tongue, making sure that everyone is into and understands what's going to happen. And even declarations are made. Nyinyi mtakaa home tutaenda na nini na ID zenu. This is our time to go vote. He's asked about strategy, right? But one would ask, what exactly do the young people want? Because it is not as clear. Young people are complaining, but what exactly do you want?
First of all, before, when we started the show, he said that most managers say that Gen Z are very hard to work with. But as a Gen Z, I'm 24 years old. I have to really ask all of you a question because I cannot notice all of you are not, you're not Gen Zs. Maybe apart from him. Now,
good genes.
Now, let me ask. Let me assume the number of registered voters in Kenya. I'm doing an assumption. Is 1 million. Let's assume by the time registration was being done and elections, maybe 200,000 have passed on. So we're talking about 800,000 registered voters, most of which are not Gen Z. Mmesema si atuchukui kura na atu register votes. How are 800,000? Mbona watokeangi wote? Let's start there the conversation because I've had a situation where middle class, which carries the most number of millennials, and that's that close generation of baby boomers who are close to the millennials. Siku ya kuvote ndio siku ya yeye kuenda ushago, ndio siku ya yeye kuchukua flight to Zanzibar, ndio siku ya yeye kuenda kushikisha na maboys. Let me give a very let me not use a radio presenter. Somebody who left. You might not invite me next time here, but let's assume a middle class radio presenter who had a show in the morning, then the rest of the day is a holiday because they're supposed to vote. But this is a day amekumbuka sijafua manguo hii wiki. Na education ni siku ya job, wacha nifue tu hii leo, So the middle class need to agree that they have also failed this nation. Okay, sisi Gen Z we agree. Most of us hawakuchukua kura na hawakuvote. But kuna watu wengi sana walichukua kura lakini hawakuenda kuvote. Hiyo ndio siku ya wao kufanya vitu zao. So we need to combine this group of those with votes and they don't go to vote and so without votes. Washikane tuende wote because for a long time millennials have always felt I have a payslip. But now the government has now decided the payslip is their cash cow. You understand? And I really feel that the people who are in the middle class for many times that we've gone to elections, I've always felt no need. Niko tu sawa. Unajua niko na salon niko sawa. But 2027, they'll go home, take out their parents and tell them, Mom, when my salary used to be 100,000, I used to afford this and this. But now SHA has come, affordable housing has come, and the next government will bring something else that is close to SHA and close to affordable housing. Ya kuteremsha ile the payslip. So I think the two groups need to combine and we go voting leaders. And again, we need to bring this narrative to the young people and to the old people in Mashinani. When I this bottle of water, if I give you 100, if you give me 100 shillings and I give you this bottle of water, mimi na wewe nobody has deni ya mtu mwingine. I've given you water, you've given me money. Wanjiko in Mashinani, where I come from, Nyandarua, I keep telling them as a young person, because like today after I leave studio I'm gonna go to Nyandarua Mashinani. There is a public participation in Engineer Kinango. But when I get to the ground, the first thing they tell me, hey, Nairobi kuna pesa, tupeza macho, and I ask them, if I give you 200 shillings and you give me your vote, then why are you asking me for accountability when I'm in parliament? Because most young people right now are all over asking, nitatoa wapi loan? Nitauza nini? Some even go to an extent of, taking loans on and giving up their properties ndio wapelekea ule Wanjiko wa kawaida money. But then this is where the whole scenario changes. I took loans, brought money to Nyandarua County wanipe kiti ya women rep. Now I am the women rep, but I have loans. accounting to millions of money. People will tell you today, unataka kusimama kiti gani? Women ndio tunayo. Yeah. So you have like 60M somewhere. I'm like, 60M for what?
From where?
But you need 60M. When you go take that 60M from a bank maybe, or from a Shirok or wherever you get it, when you go into parliament and then you hear in the corridors of parliament somewhere in the toilets there is each person 2 million, I'll first go take the money, nipunguze 60 million ikuwe 58 million. And the Kenyan voter needs to understand, as long as we make elections expensive, we are not in the moral authority to demand for accountability, because you made elections very expensive. That today, if we were to talk about the young people going for president, it would be an exercise in futility, because they'll be asked, ukona like 5 billion ya kufanya campaigns. Why do we need 5 billion? I'm sorry, I'm cutting you short, but let me just finish my statement. I think we need to engage the conversation of young people, ensuring that in the next generation, elections become cheaper. The day that elections become just an exercise for a patriotic Kenyan, then accountability will automatically go up. But as long as we keep making elections very expensive, it becomes a lucrative. In fact, somebody joked the other day that nowadays, ukiona career imekulemea, biashara iendi poa, the next business idea ama nisimame MP.
No, kuna business idea ingine la wacha niwasaidie, it's becoming a preacher. But it's an opportunity. Let me put some perspective before I ask my question, right? If you earn 100,000, you're in the top 10% of wealthiest Kenyans. 90% of Kenya's GDP is held by 10,000 people. 90%. That middle class you speak of does not really exist except in your estates, from Buruburu upwards, right? Most people in this country are poor. That's one. But number two, this country does not have true tribal kingpins. Raila Odinga himself in Nyanza cannot get 70% turnout. In fact, last election, he got 60%. Okay. Now, why do I bring these dynamics into the mix? The reason why people ascribe to a bribe to vote, the reason why people make elections expensive, the reason why accountability does not happen is because of a thing called hopelessness. It's not a behavioral problem. Those people are not dumb. They're saying, Dennis is coming to be an MP. He will never help me. Let me get the 500 to Malizane. Right? And I always say that a good leader is a merchant of hope. Right? When we listen to a lot of Gen Z speech, we see the ability to read the problem. What then is the solution to Gen Zs, to the nation, that gives us hope?
Nudin?
Wow. You see, at the end of the day, I do believe, like you rightfully said, the voter knows that once he or she votes for you, they'll never see you.
Yes.
That's a sad reality. And I bring it back to where I started from. You guys thought that 100 years of Kanu was a joke. Impoverish them to use them. It's the same kids who grew up in Kanu now the bosses, they understand that, And so the voter has yet to see a leader that has actually, you said, sell hope. The president's all hope